we wanted somebody to step in the producer's chair that would give us some direction. We felt as if we'd lost our direction with Know Your Enemy. We felt as if we'd managed to lose what could have been a good record with a lack of discipline kind of thing. So ourselves and Dave Erringer, we felt as if we dropped the ball. So Dave Erringer had produced If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next, Masters Against the Classes. He'd recorded our 2 number ones and produced our 2 number ones. But sometimes, you work too much with each other and you become too familiar and you've got to take a break. So we decided that we needed somebody, an elder statesman, to kind of show a bit of authority towards us and organize our thoughts, and somebody who had good taste and also came from an engineering background. So all those things, Mike Hedges had produced us in the past. He produced the Banshees and the Associates and Beautiful South, etc. And he was that guy. He came from an engineering background. He was old school. He had great taste, and he had a sense of authority because he was 6'7" and he was a big, tall, ginger Irish guy kind of thing. He really kind of. And we like having a boss in the studio. We like it. So kind of Tony Visconti, he fitted into all that. And of course, there were just so many reference points from the 70s and late 60s and the 80s, work that he had done, which just speak for itself, But yeah, we needed somebody to organize our thoughts, show us a bit of discipline, and to also be a bit of a taste filter for us.
Felly, dilyn hynna, James, yn ddifur, sut oedd Tony Visconti felly yn delio efo band fel y Manics, sydd efo sŵn mor amlwg?
Yeah, sometimes it can seem intimidating for producers coming into a workspace with a band when they've known each other for so long, especially us, because we've known each other since we were kids. And we've got such a long history with each other. So that can be intimidating for people. It can be intimidating for extra musicians that come on the road for you. But if you're going to talk to somebody like Mike Hedges or Tony Visconti, they're not going to be intimidated by us. They might be for a second. They might think, oh, they're a bit cliquey. Are they making jokes about me? But they'll soon not care about that because they'll think, I'm Tony Visconti. And that's a good seat of armor to have that ego. But kind of the biggest thing you want from a producer, but there's 3 things you want from them. You want them to create a great environment for you to work in, as they say in modern parlance, a safe space. The second thing you want is taste from them. You want them to just have a good sense of taste. Like, no, don't palm mute that guitar, be a bit more free with it, or don't do kind of like that pentatonic scale, do something which is much more on the edge of the scale, just those kind of things, just somebody that gives you a simple direction and that you can just carry on and do it. And then the third most important thing, I think, is that you want a producer to know what your best performance is. So sometimes we've done experiments with other producers and they'll go, oh, that sounds great. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. That's just me just warming up. Or like, that Nick and Sean will be the same. A producer would have gone, oh, that sounds great, let's move on. And we're like, no, that's not my best performance. And that wasn't us being kind of like, too finicky or too precious or too, being caught up in too much perfectionism. That was just us knowing that was nowhere near our best performance. So when you're working with a producer, you want them to have done their research. You want them to listen to your records so they know what your best performance is. So they're the 3 things you want. Tony fitted all those bills on paper, on vinyl, on cassette, on CD. That's the era that he straddled. We probably failed him more than he failed us, I think.
Be fysa'r pethau na fysa di ysbrydoli chi neu denu chi at Visconti?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun going into my record collection and my parents' record collection to see what he had produced. I knew the top line stuff that he had done, the Bowie stuff, especially Lodger, Young Americans for me. Thin Lizzy, Black Rose. So Waiting for an Alibi and Sarah.
Oh.
So that's like, top line stuff, but then there were records like Breaking Glass soundtrack, which I love. I really love. I like that film and I like that soundtrack. But then there was surprising stuff. I remember having this sense, just going into my mum's record collection and finding Stages by Elaine Page. And he had done Memory, Memory, and Sending the Clowns. And he does an amazing job on that of melding the voice and the orchestration together, which of course he had done with Bowie as well. There was a really nice little thing as well, because he had produced the Ivies, who became Badfinger. And I took, when I went over, I just kind of, I took my 7-inch of Maybe Tomorrow by the Ivies. So then that ended up becoming a Badfinger song. But of course, before that, it was by the Ivies. And, we all love Pete Ham and Mike Gibbons and stuff, they're such a great band. And so I took my copy of Maybe Tomorrow by the Ivies over, and he was just like, man, there's more to me than Bowie, huh? And I was like, yeah, I do know there's more to you than Bowie. So I think that got me on side with him. There's artistry there, this experimentation, and also there's a classicism there. He does cover all the bases,
So let's start, James, sy'n ni cychwyn hefo Emily, the track Emily.
The song Emily is about Emily Pankhurst, but it's about her legacy. It's not about her life, really. It's about how her legacy should have stretched into the present day, which the present day being obviously back when this album was made, and how perhaps her message had been taken for granted, and her actions have been taken for granted. It's not a song which is like a history lesson. It's like, where do we place her sacrifice now? Are we living up to the sacrifice of the suffragettes, kind of thing? It's like, and a song like If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next, again, was asking the same thing. Are we living up to the examples that were set to us before, kind of thing? And that song, I remember having a hard time writing that song, because, yeah, when you're given a lyric like that, you feel as if you don't let the lyricist down. Song Solitude sometimes is one of those magic moments. I remember doing the demo in Cardiff in Famous Studios, which is just around the back of where Brains Brewery used to be. And it's a song that I'd written the tune to the lyric the night before. I just sat there and I just played it, and Nick and Sean just picked it up off the floor and played along with me. And within 3 rehearsals, it was done. It was fully formed. And that doesn't happen much, as you very well know. Sometimes you've got to egg each other on, and sometimes you've got to argue over things. And we didn't have to argue over anything. But then, you cut to us recording in New York with Tony. And yeah, this song was an example of him at work. He said, I don't want to change the arrangement, but I do want to spend time on the sounds. He just wanted to use really basic recording techniques on the drums and the guitar. So decatry on the drums, which is quite a simple but cultured way of recording drums. And he wanted to just go really basic on my guitar amps, just using 1 amp at a time, not doubling up in tracks. He wanted to just focus on getting really rich, pure sounds. And that was beautiful. We did it really quickly. And I watched him make up the drum kit, and he was working for 10 minutes. It sounded like awful. After 15 minutes, there was a promise of something. And after 25 minutes, it came into vision like an old Red Fusion TV. It just went boof, and it all came together. And that was lovely watching somebody do a drum sound in that old school kind of way. There was no fuss. It was just all about his mic placement and his EQs and nothing else. So that was lovely.
Y track ola mae Visconti wedi gynhyrchu, James, ydy Cardiff Afterlife.
Again, we had done a really good demo of this in Cardiff, in Famous Studios. I felt like it was a really important song lyrically. It was the first song to really deal with the fallout of Richey's disappearance and how we had dealt with it, and how we had dealt with other people misremembering him, I suppose. It's the first time that we had dealt with that lyrically or in a song. So I remember when I brought the tune to the lyric, this is absolute good pretentious bullshit from me. I wanted to be like a method musician. So I wanted to pretend to be Johnny Marr in the when Johnny Marr was in the or the. And that's why I tried to channel when I was writing the music to Nick's lyric. I think perhaps you may be able to hear that a tiny bit. Yeah, you even tried to copy kind of the mouth organ on the records. Sometimes it's fun to do things like that, and you find a bit of yourself that you didn't know before. So anyway, we cut to New York in the Looking Glass Studios, I think it was called. And again, he really focused on, he spent a lot of time with Nick on the bass. He just wanted Nick to just do a 1-take bass, and he wanted to choose a 1-take bass in its entirety. I watched him, and he just really enjoyed watching Nick and Sean play together. He really just seemed to really vibe off it. And I think Nick was using one of his basses that had been used on a Bowie record, etc., which is a thrill for people like us, just because we're still quite naive gullible kind of thing. He loved the sound of bass and drums, which I respect that from a producer. You know, when they just like the sound of a hi-hat or they like the sound of a bass guitar, that's pure. It's nice. So that was lovely watching him watch them. And then he really focused on me. He just kept wanting me to relax when I was doing the vocal. He wanted me to relax more and more and more. And he just, his final direction was, you've just got to be the casual observer in this song. You know, the lyricist is the one with the intensities coming from. You've got to take a step back and you've got to be the casual observer. And I kind of understood it when he said that. I was almost like the voiceover in a film kind of thing. So that was nice direction. I like that kind of pretentious stuff. You know, I like good direction. You learn something from people sometimes, you know. And yeah, and that came together really, really well. And I think, again, his pure sounds on that record are lovely. They really are.